What's up, it's me, DWC, and today I'm going to be bringing you a video about the top players to trade for in franchise in MLB The Show 20. I did two separate simulations. One was 3 seasons long, one was 2 seasons long, so you're going to get 5 seasons worth of simulation in the game of proof to show you that these players are players that you need to get on your team if you can do that. So we're going to hop into my first save file, which is with the Detroit Tigers. And we're going to look at the first player once we get in there. First player, my guarantee that you need to trade for. He plays for the LA Dodgers. And I decided to go with players that are a little bit under the radar. I'm not going to be listing off a bunch of superstars in the league. I want players that are a little bit under the radar, but are good players, but they're easier to trade for. Not like a Mookie Betts or a Cody Bellinger or anything like that. So we're going to go over to first base on the Dodgers. And we see Max Muncy. 31 years old at this point. 88 overall. But you go over to his statistics. 2020. He hit 44 home runs. He had an OPS of 1,000. He had a 314 average, 400 OBP, and like I said, the OPS of 1,000. Amazing year. He had 33 doubles, 174 hits. Crazy good year for a first baseman right there. Then you look at his second season, 2021. He had 138 hits, 33 doubles again, 41 home runs, so that's 2 years with 40 plus homers. Over 100 RBI, good amount of walks. 264 average, 360 OBP, 933 OPS. And then in his 2022 season, he had a little bit of a down year compared to the previous 2 years, but still a solid year for a first baseman. He had 124 hits in 137 games. Only 18 doubles this year. 31 homers is still solid. 84 RBI, 264 average, so the same average as the previous year. 350 OBP, and an 854 OPS. So, looking at those 3 seasons in Sim, Max Muncy is a very solid player. So, I'm going to be right back when I switch over to my other save file, which is with the San Francisco Giants. I did another 2 years of simulation, and I'll show you his stats in that save file just to prove that he is a very solid player in franchise. So here we are in my San Francisco Giants save file, and we're on Max Muncy of the Dodgers again. You see this one, he is 30 years old and up to a 90 overall. And you look at his statistics. Year 1 in 2020, he had 130 hits, 21 doubles, 34 home runs, almost 100 RBI. Good walks again with 80. 252 average, 356 OBP, and 851 OPS. So mid 800s in the OPS is solid. And then in 2021, he had 132 hits with 28 doubles, 32 home runs, a 250 average this year with a 350 OBP, and an 840 OPS. So this one right here was his worst season out of the 5 seasons of simulation, and it's still a very solid season for a first baseman. So Max Muncy is my first player for you to pick up in MLB The Show 20 franchise mode. So for my second player that you must trade for in franchise mode, we have Domingo Santana. Now you see 2 years in, he is with the Indians. On the last year of his contract, he will be going into free agency, so you have him on contract for 2 years. 28 years old, 84 overall, and you look at his stats. In the first season, 138 games, he had 150 hits, 26 doubles, 31 home runs. You see he had a 294 average, 376 OBP, and a 914 OPS. So a very solid season right there in 2020 on my Giants save file for Domingo Santana. And then the second year, he only played 65 games, but he still had 15 doubles and 10 home runs. He also had a 315 average, a 400 OBP, and a 938 OPS. So even though he did only play 65 games this season on this save file, he still produced very, very well. So, like I did with Muncie, I'm going to hop over to the other save file. This one will be 3 years deep, and I'll show you the stats for Domingo Santana on that save file. Okay, so here we are on save file number 2. That is 3 years in. We have Domingo Santana on the Cubs in this file as he signed there when he hit free agency. He is 29 years old, 85 overall, and we're going to take a look at his stats. You see in year 1, he played 100 games, 115 hits, 15 doubles, 22 home runs, and he had a 342 average, which is crazy. Again, only 100 games, but a ridiculous average right there for a power hitter. He does have good contact, though, so that's the thing about Santana. He has good contact, he has good power. You look at his OBP for this year, 430, and his OPS was 1,031, which is crazy. That is a really, really good season for your first year. Then you look at the second season. He played 134 games, so he played more games, 141 hits, 25 doubles, and 24 home runs. So a lot of extra base power right there. 89 RBI. He had a 288 average this year, 387 OBP, and an 885 OPS. And then in the third year in this save file, he played 147 games. He had 147 hits, so a hit a game, 27 doubles, and 26 home runs. Again with 89 RBI. He had 270 average this year with a 355 OBP and an OPS of 824. So looking at the 5 seasons of sim with Santana, he produces really well. He's a really good hitter, a very, very solid corner outfield option for you to pick up in your team. So he's player number 2 that is a must trade for me in franchise mode this year in MLB The Show 20. Okay, so position player number 3 for me that is a must pick up in MLB The Show 20 franchise mode. He plays for the Minnesota Twins. Based off that, if you've played a bit of franchise this season, you might already know who it is, but we're going to go in, and it is third baseman Miguel Sano. This man is an absolute monster in franchise mode this year. We're going to bring up his stats for save file number 1. That is the 3-year save file. 2020, he played in 112 games, so he missed a few games. He had 108 hits, which is not the greatest. He had 22 doubles, 32 home runs. He still almost had 100 RBI, missing 50 games. You look at his average, he had a 258 average, 376 OBP, and a 917 OPS. So that's a very solid year for a middle of the order bat who's going to be playing third base or maybe first base for you. His second year on this save file, he played in 144 games, 136 hits, 20 doubles, 37 home runs, 113 RBI. He had a 252 average with a 360 OBP and an 868 OPS. Very solid year for Miguel Sano right there in Season 2. And in Season 3 on this save file, he played 159 games. So the most games he's played out of the 3 seasons on this file. He had 171 hits. Very good. 27 doubles. 46 home runs. And 142 RBI. And he averaged 280, 371 OBP, and he had a 935 OPS. So these are 3 very solid seasons, obviously with season number 3 being the best with 46 home runs and a 935 OPS. Miguel Sano is a very, very good hitter this year in franchise mode. I'm going to switch over to my second save file and show you how he did in the other 2 seasons of simulation on that file. Okay, so here we are, save file number 2, 2 years in, looking at Miguel Sano, 27 years old, 88 overall. And for this save file, he played 127 games in season number 1, 128 hits with 32 doubles, 36 home runs, 111 RBI. He gets decent walk numbers also because he has fairly good discipline. You look right here, his discipline's 89, so he manages to get a good amount of walks also. He had a 274 average, 378 OBP, and a 957 OPS. Another very, very solid season for Miguel Sano. And then you look at the second season on this file. He's played the least games out of any of the seasons at 94. So he had 21 doubles and 22 home runs still in just 94 games, missing almost half the season. A 265 average, 350 OBP, and an 865 OPS. So for Miguel Sano, it looks like in franchise mode this year, the worst you're going to get from him is about a mid 800 OPS. So he's a very, very solid player. If you can pick him up, I would highly suggest to do so, as he is going to be a very solid player for you at third base or first base if you decide to put him there. Maybe even the corner outfield. Wherever you put him, he's going to hit for you. He is a great hitter this year in franchise mode. Okay, so my first pitcher to trade for in MLB The Show franchise this year is on the Colorado Rockies, and it is Hermann Marquez. You see, he's 26 years old, 89 overall, 2 seasons in, and season number 1, he pitched over 200 innings. He had almost 200 strikeouts, a 3 ERA, 1.2 whip. So that's a solid year for a player who wasn't the greatest overall the first season in simulation, but he still produces really well for you. And on a Rockies team that probably didn't win that many games the first season in simulation, he had 12 wins. Season number 2 on this file, he pitched again over 200 innings. Again, he had just shy of 200 strikeouts. He had a 2.95 ERA this year, so just under the 3 ERA. And he had a whip of 114. So again, another solid year right there for Hermann Marquez. 2 solid years on this save file. I'm going to jump over to the other one and show you how he did over there. Okay, so here we are on save file number 2. Taking a look at Hermann Marquez on this save file. 27 years old, 85 overall. You see he's a B potential, so he meets his potential at 89 or 88. Not sure which one it is exactly, but he hits his potential either way. Looking at his first season, 33 starts, 230 innings, which proves that he was in the games deep into the game. He had 195 strikeouts, so his strikeouts are pretty good. We see that they hover around 200. This season, he had a 184 ERA and a 1 whip. So that's a very, very, very solid season right there for Hermann Marquez in Season 1. And again, in Season 1, his overall doesn't start off amazingly high, but he still manages to put up 14 wins, 230 innings, a 1.84 ERA, and a 1 whip. Crazy numbers right there. That's probably a Cy Young year. You take a look at season number 2. He had 15 wins. Again, over 200 innings. So that's what you're going to get from him. You're going to get 200 plus innings. You're going to get around 200 strikeouts. You're going to get a solid ERA, around or under 3. This year he had 232, and he had a whip of 1 again. And in his third season, he again had 30 plus starts, again had 200 plus innings, again had around 200 strikeouts at 210 this season, with his most that we've seen. 275 ERA, so a little bit higher, but still around his average. And again, he had a 1 whip. So 3 seasons right here, he averaged a 1 whip. So if that doesn't show you that he's a player that you need to pick up and get in your rotation, I don't know what will. Hermann Marquez this year in franchise mode is a monster. He is a great pitcher for your rotation. Pick him up if you can. Okay, so for our second pitcher, starting pitcher, that is a trade target in MLB The Show franchise this year, we are going to the Braves. I could have went to the Twins with Jose Barrios, but I decided to switch it up and go to the Braves. And we're going to go with Mike Soroka. Mike Soroka is very solid this year in franchise mode. He doesn't average the most strikeouts. You see, in the first season in this save file, he had 160 innings, and he had 137 strikeouts, so not bad. Slightly below 1 an inning. He had a 2.30 ERA with a 1.14 whip. So that's a solid year for a starter in your rotation. Doesn't necessarily need to be your ace, but maybe a 2 or a 3. Very solid year right there. And you go to year number 2. He had over 200 innings for us, 160 strikeouts. So again, his strikeout numbers aren't going to be crazy high, but that's not what he's here for. He's here to keep the ball in the ballpark. He's here to limit the runs that he gives up and just give you solid seasons and solid starts. As you see here, he had a 3.39 ERA this year. He had a 1.28 whip, which is slightly higher, but still overall for a starting pitcher in franchise mode this season, that's a solid season. Year number 3 on this file, he didn't pitch as many games. He only had 110 innings pitched. He had a 3.85 ERA, which is not the greatest. It's his worst ERA we've seen so far, but still under 4, so it's not as bad as it could be, because sometimes in franchise mode you see ERAs which are very inflated because the hitting is just sometimes so good in simulation. 87 strikeouts in 110 innings, that's about what he'll give you, and a 1.2 whip. So Soroka on this file is pretty solid. I'm going to hop over to the other one quickly and show you that he continues to be solid on that save file. So here we are on save file number 2. Mike Soroka at this point, 23 years old, 88 overall with an A potential. That A potential is going to make him a little bit more difficult to trade for, but if you can get him, he is very solid. As you see on this save file, he averaged 33 starts both seasons. He had 200 plus innings pitched both seasons, and he had around 150 strikeouts in both of those seasons. So again, he's not going to be near a strikeout an inning kind of pitcher, but he is going to produce for you. As you see on this save file, season 1 he had a 2.89 ERA and a 1.05 whip, and then season number 2 he had a 3.15 ERA and a 1.11 whip. So on this save file, he pitched even better than he did on save file number 1. On the first save file, he had about mid-3 ERA, so still solid for a pitcher in your rotation. But on this save file, he proves that he can pitch even better than that for you. So Mike Soroka is pitcher number 2. That is a must pick up from me. And that is our top 5 players to trade for that I came up with. A little bit under the radar, not like superstars for you to trade for. Right now, what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to go through some bonus players because I wanted to throw in at least one reliever. So I'm going to show him, and then I'm going to list off a few other players that you can target that will most likely do very well, that also proved in these 5 seasons of simulations that they are very solid players. I just didn't add them into the video because these were the players that I decided to go with. So, for relievers, we have Josh Taylor of the Red Sox. At this point, 2 seasons in, he is 28 years old, up to an 86 overall, with morale, 84 base. He made 45 appearances in season 1. He pitched to the tune of 58 strikeouts in 44 innings pitched, so that's solid for a reliever. That's about what you're looking for. Only gave up 4 home runs, 2.42 ERA, under 1 whip. That's a very, very solid season for a pitcher in your bullpen. Season number 2, he made 49 appearances. He had 27 saves this season. He had 32 the first season. He gave up only 6 home runs this season with a few more innings. 52 strikeouts to 46 innings. Again, over a strikeout an inning is what you want out of a reliever, ideally. 2.51 ERA and a 1 whip. So a very, very solid season again there for a relief pitcher. I'm going to show you what he did on the second save file. So, save file number 2. Here we are. Josh Naylor. You see he is 29 years old, 78 overall on this save file, 80 overall without morale effects. And you look at this, first 2 seasons, he had 31 innings pitched in 33 appearances. He had a 2.9 ERA and a 1.3 whip. And he had 23 strikeouts in 31 innings. So a solid season there for a reliever again. Season 2, he had 47 appearances. He had 40 innings. And he had 42 strikeouts in 40 innings. So not bad. 2.7 ERA is solid for a reliever in this game. And a 1.23 whip. So again, a solid season for a reliever. He's had 4 very solid seasons, and then out of my 5 seasons of simulation, season number 3 on this save file was the one that he didn't do well. So if you have a relief pitcher in this game that has one not great year out of 5 in simulation, you're doing pretty well. Because from my experience in this game, going through 5 seasons of simulations, relief pitchers are not very consistent, at least going through the ones that I was looking at. So on season 3, he had 42 innings pitched out of 45 appearances. He had 34 strikeouts, so the strikeouts were a little bit lower. A 4.7 ERA is not very good for a relief pitcher in your bullpen, and then he had a 1.6 whip. So this season he struggled, but the 4 other seasons that we've seen, he was very solid. So if you want to go and get Josh Taylor, chances are he's going to be pretty good for you. But now I'm going to back out, and I'm going to list off some other players that you can target that will most likely produce well for you. Alright, so on my list, I have Jorge Salir listed as a bonus. He's almost guaranteed to give you around 40, if not more, home runs, and he will have a pretty high OPS most likely. Out of the seasons that I've simulated, I think he only had 1 down year, so he is a very solid hitter for you. And if you're an American League team, most likely, because his fielding's not great, stick him at DH, and he will absolutely rake for you. He will hit tons of home runs. He will drive in lots of runs. He will be just a great productive hitter for you in your lineup. And then for a bonus pitcher, I had Jose Barrios. He pitches really well in franchise this year. He is a potential, and he starts off at a decent overall, so he might be difficult to trade for. That's why I left him out of my main selections. And then I have a few relievers that I was also looking at that pitch pretty well. We have Nick Whittegren of the Cleveland Indians is pretty solid. For the most seasons I simulated out of 5, I think 3 or 4. I think 4 he was very solid, and 1 he wasn't great. But again, I said earlier that it's tough to find relievers in this year's game that are very consistent through over the stretch of 5 seasons. But another option that I had listed was Chad Green. He's a very solid reliever out of the 5 seasons of simulation that I did, and also his teammate Tommy Canley. Both of those pitchers are solid, but they're not guaranteed to be locks. So relief pitchers is the position that you're going to struggle with to find players that are guaranteed to be consistent for you. But the other positions and the other players, the players that I listed off, are almost locks to be very good if you pick them up. So our main 5, we have Max Muncy, Miguel Sano, Domingo Santana are our 3 hitters for you to pick up. And Hermann Marquez and Mike Soroka are our 2 starting pitchers for you to pick up. Those are our main 5 options for franchise mode this season in MLB The Show. And I suggest if you can pick up those players, if you have the assets to make those moves, you go ahead and do so, because they will be great players for you this year in MLB The Show. But that's it for me. I just wanted to put out some players that I've found have been very successful in franchise mode this season after I've had a bit of time in the game. So those are the players that you should trade for in MLB The Show 20 this year. That's it for this video. I'll see you next time with more MLB The Show 20 content. Peace.